the money. A lot of you that have not-for-profits complain about how long it takes, about the process, how long it takes to get the funding, the reimbursement process, you know, that you have to go through an agency and it takes blah, 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 blah. So we're trying to, we're doing a process where it's going through fiscal conduits, and we'll talk about why United Way is up here and what that is going to look like. Also, we want to make sure that there are some folks and there's some institutions that need also support about capacity, about making sure we do it. So we want to also hear about organizations that help our organizations with capacity building or what have you, to be able to reach folks. And what we decided to do was we wanted to make sure that to give our communities the opportunity to hear about what the great work that you guys are doing before even the application process. So before we start, and then we're going to give you guys 3 minutes each to hear from you guys, to hear what you're doing in this area. A couple of questions that we're going to answer so that you don't have to ask certain questions or what have you. So let me go to the frequently asked questions. Do we have it here?
Yeah, we do.
So right now we don't have a money problem, right? We want to make sure that we know about what's happening in the community. Oftentimes, great things are happening in our neighborhoods, great people are doing great work, and we don't know about it. So this is part of the issue that we want to close that gap. First thing, we fought to have $30 million. So the $30 million is going to be available. What types of programs are going to be funded? So we're looking to funding a wide range of programs, but this is programming, not capital. All right, so we're going to be looking for housing related, economic development, workforce development, health, education, civic engagement, cultural preservation, criminal justice reform, nonprofit capacity building. How will the funds be distributed? The funds, again, we're not doing it through an agency now. The funds are going to be distributed through 5 fiscal conduits. And the organizations are Elmcore Youth and Adult Activities, New York Urban League, the United Way of New York State, LISC, New York, and the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies. The funding is going to go through the Department of State, and then the fiscal conduits are going to oversee the application process, review submissions, and distribute funds. Well, what's the application process? We're working on that. Part of the process is that we're working on a fair application process, and while we are actually working on the application process with the fiscal conduits, we're also hearing from you. We're hearing from you. This is the 5th program like this that we did. The first one was in Long Island. Then we went to Queens. We did Brooklyn. I can't remember wherever. Harlem. So this is number 5. How is the funding done? It is done through reimbursement. We do have a grant program but it's a smaller grant program for smaller dollar amounts, from $5,000 to $50,000 grant program. Are there any restrictions on how the funding can be used? Yes, it is program money only, not for capital. And what are the eligibility requirements? It has to be non-for-profit, community-based organizations, and entities that serve the underserved communities across our state. All right, so those are just some of the big things. So some housekeeping. We're going to give you guys 3 minutes each to talk about what you guys do. We're also recording it. What do we do with this information? We find out part of what we're doing is finding out what you're actually doing, what's happening in the community. All right. Number 2, what's also important is that so we know what's going on. You being here doesn't guarantee that you get the funding. It is not guaranteed that you get the funding, right? But it's good for you to be here. And then also, really important, follow us on social media to get more information. Our handles is the NYSBLT, so the New York State Black Legislative Task Force. So if you have social media, follow us on social media. If you don't have social media, right? When you signed up, we're going to make sure that we stay in touch with you. United Way, do you want to have anything to say?
Sure. So first, it's great to be here in Syracuse. Therese Daly, the president and CEO of United Way of New York State, is at a wedding on the West Coast. Otherwise, she would have been here today. So I'm her stand-in. But we've been at all five of the
Yes.
listening tours today and are excited that this is the first upstate. Nothing about downstate, right? But we do like a little upstate. And it is important to hear from the communities to try to find the synergies between the communities. So if you are in Long Island to Buffalo or Syracuse, what are the areas that we need to focus on, right? So it helps the fiduciaries like the United Way of New York State think about implementation. As we've talked about, we do not have the details yet from the state of New York, right? There is still a contracting process and all the legal aspects of it for how this money is going to roll out. But I think these listening sessions between now and November, when the last one occurs, will allow us to really hear from everybody to determine our next steps and the priorities for how this $30 million, and congratulations to all of you for the work you did to secure that money. That was not a small feat by any means. And hopefully it's the first of many years of funding, right, to start tackling the needs in the communities of New York State. So I'm happy to be here today, and hopefully we can answer as many questions as we can with the limited information that we have today. But it is really about listening to what is occurring here in Syracuse and Central New York.
Oh, wait, one last thing before we get started too. I want to make sure that we recognize that you guys have a great leader in Pam Hunter, who makes sure she fights for you guys. So give her a round of applause.
Just a couple other things. I probably know 95% of the folks who are in this room today, and I appreciate each of you for being here. You can stay informed, as Clyde said, and please make sure, and you have the information in front of you. Any questions after this, Dorcia, who is the ED for the task force, she will be here, but the task force is your main conduit for questions relative to this funding, and they will be able to help you along the way. And as I've communicated in the 10 years I've been in the assembly, it's been important for us to amplify our voices. That's why I've called some of you personally to come here today, because we want to make sure that Central New York gets its fair share of resources. And sometimes we don't get our fair share of resources. And those are the things that I'm always kind of fighting and complaining about. And the $30 million, while it is statewide, I guess there is a certain allocation for each one of the conduits. You are not required to only apply to the United Way of New York State. You could apply to any one of the conduits. But that being said, I wanted to make sure you all have the information that we have, but we are hearing from you in the community. They hear from me all the time in the community about our community, but they need to hear from you. So when we're putting all this information together, the task force is putting this information together, trying to figure out how do we want to allocate the money? Is there, more need in housing? Is there more need in criminal justice? They don't know what you know that's happening in Syracuse. And I need for you to communicate to these folks up here, but to the people on Zoom, and they're recording this, so we can collate this information, what's happening on the ground here and why it's urgently necessary, why you need the funds. So I appreciate you all showing up here today, and we want to make sure this is listening. We need to hear from you. So there is a microphone right over there, because we're not filled to capacity. I'm not going to be like, cut it off right now, but we want to be sensitive for time. So what you're going to do is going to give some brief information about your entity and a programming that you feel is going to be instrumental in our community to uplift wherever and whatever you think is crucial that's happening in our community. So each of you are playing pivotal roles in the areas that you represent. So I need you to step forward and say what you're doing in your organization, what your organization is, and a programming that you think is going to be uplifting and that you think that you are going to require funds for. So like they say in church, will there be one? The microphone is yours. This is our listening session. Thank you, Lisa.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Alford, and I serve as the CEO of ACR Health, a local nonprofit here in the Syracuse area. Thank you ACR, we know every day about urgent needs for housing, which you mentioned. We also work in the space of overdose, prevention and harm reduction. We don't have to say anything about what the opioid crisis has done, throughout the country, but specifically, in our community, and I would also say specifically in many of the communities that, elected officials represent, that even when we have services, sometimes the outreach is still limited or not as good as it should be in many of those communities, because we want to have services that really meet the cultural needs of folks in those communities that they look different. We also want to make sure that we have safe support for some of our smaller subsections of our community, for example, the LGBTQ community. And we know those are lifelines for people, especially when we talk about housing, for people to be able to, housing is so important to finding, to being able to finish school, all those things. We're certainly encouraged about seeing the $30 million set aside, but we also look at the challenges and how those funds are being distributed. And specifically, with it being reimbursement-based and community-based organizations, many which serve those communities that may be smaller or mid-sized, that may present some challenges. So, again, if there are ways in which more money could be set aside, so it's not always reimbursement-based, but smaller and mid-sized communities that frequently are serving many of those at-risk and marginalized communities don't necessarily have reserve to be able to do that. Even with those supports. And we want to make sure that people that are most impacted by the process, but it has to be accessible. We also understand that funding is not meant to replace any of the federal funding cuts that many of our organizations have already experienced. But we also know that we want to focus on direct program support. And we want to make sure that what we're doing, and I mentioned several, that our agency provides harm reduction, overdose prevention, housing specifically related to youth, and many of those wraparound services dealing with people that have what I say complex conditions such as mental health conditions and the like. And finally, with funds not being distributed this year, I would say I would just invite the task force to look and think of ways in which communities can continue to be engaged in this time frame. So we're not just back tonight, but we want to make sure that people that know about tonight can hear about it and be engaged and prepared in the meantime, because there may be things that organizations can do so they can be ready, because it is a quick turnaround for a process to apply. We want people to have done what they could do in the interim. Worst outcomes certainly would be when people somehow feel that momentum is lost or lose trust in the process if it's too slow or too burdensome. That's my feedback. I just got a couple of questions. How will we ensure that those smaller and mid-sized grassroots organizations actually have a fair chance to access those funds? They may not have a professional grant writers that can, have the velocity RFPs that they present, and then we wonder why we've got folks that maybe aren't trusted messengers in communities providing services, and then you're not really getting the impact that we want. And how can we also ensure those community voices remain involved around the world?
Just as far as kind of requisite or pre-registering, when we first send out notice about this, and we've been doing this for about a month, but when we first sent out notice, there was an email that you could fill out that kind of like pre-registered you. And I think it was important to know not only a 501c3, but also your most recent 990 tax filing form. So if you have scanned the QR code to get the information, that way you can kind of be pre-registered in the system. So you don't have to wait until money's available and all of a sudden now what do I do? You're pre-registered in the system. So I think that is important. And one of the main things that you said relative to, well, how do we make sure these smaller voices, that's why the task force members are a part of these conversations. So your voice isn't lost because I'm hearing it and being able to carry it back through. So it's not, lost into oblivion. I think in some ways that never happens. It's kind of a grant that maybe we give you a support letter and then we never know what happens after that. we are boots on the ground and your voices to amplify the things in the community. And that's why it's important for you to be here and others to, even if you weren't here today, to pre-register and send the information so you know what's going on. So like she said, that there's another listening session happening, but this task force has been very engaged with trying to over communicate. As soon as we know something, you'll know something. That's why give us your email, sign up. So that way, when we know something, you'll be the first person to know.
Now, I would just offer, as an organization, we provide services not only in central New York, but in northern New York. I would also be interested in knowing how would that impact, with the ability to provide funding in multiple areas, given that there are organizations like ours that sort of non-county.
The one thing I would add, and we don't have full clarity on it, but it's something that all of the fiduciaries have met, and we are going to start meeting on a more regular basis. We would like to try to make the application process uniform and as simple in the first instance as possible. Obviously, as a fiduciary, we're going to have a state contract and still have state finance laws that we must abide by. But we've heard that and we're thinking through that, understanding that for those smaller nonprofits, right, our current contracting system with the state is overwhelming. It takes too long. It's the reimburse. We may not be able to fix all of it in this round, but it is something that collectively the fiduciaries are talking about and trying to think through strategies. We do not yet have our contracts with the state or started that process as well. So I think that's why it's important as these listening sessions continue, it will help us hopefully be thought partners to all of you and the task force for how can we roll this out in the most simplified way and hopefully in a uniform way so that the United Way of New York State and, LISC maybe has the same application and the same process. We're not asking for different things depending on the fiduciary. So we don't have full answers yet, but it is something that we've discussed and we are starting to work through now that everyone has come together.
I just want to introduce Alicia Heineman. She is my colleague from Queens as well, and she also chairs the Higher Education Committee. So in case any of you are interested after this conversation, higher ed, if you have any questions. Okay, who's next?
Well, we would echo some of the things that Lisa has said around some of the questions that you have.
That's okay. We have the executive director and our task force chair here, so they're here to hear that as well. So keep going. Keep going.
So, Interfaith Works is a 50-year-old nonprofit business. We do 3 main centers. With all of their basic needs, all of their citizenship. We also have a Center for Dialogue, which has an intensive inner-city youth leadership program and peace and dialogues to bridge divides between people and races and their identities, as well as our Center for Dialogue and Action is a major food justice program, which is working with 51 partners across the inner-city, getting food into neighborhoods, helping pantries build their ability to serve. And connecting people. And then finally, our Center for Healthy Aging. I'm not going to say a word about that. So our Center for Healthy Aging helps older adult spaces connected so that they can age with community. We do that through volunteer visiting. We have programs to teach older adults how to use technology. We include a coalition of services providers that our work is that we're achieving our that we've been doing, since, January 25th is, trying to figure out both how to keep moving forward with needs, for people in our community, as well as to think hard about the tsunami that's coming at all of us in human services around the loss of things like SNAP benefits, rental assistance, the fact that in New York State there's no more heat money and it's August, and that money doesn't get, renewed until December. So what do people do around heat? And I think we did an analysis, the county has been working with us on this, that we're gonna lose $12 million in 1 year just for the refugees who have been told that they will be cut off of their SNAP money from now on when they try to reapply. Thankfully, the county is saying until we get clear regulations, we're not gonna cut them off. So it's buying a little bit of time for us, but it's coming. So what happens when people who are really depending on these kinds of benefits, and then next year, as soon as the House elections happen, right after that, a whole other group of people, several groups of people actually are going to be denied their SNAP benefits. I think we've got to look at both, how do we continue to build capacity for the agencies to do what they need to do, while we're also meeting the basic needs. And I know in our agency, we're putting out the call to our donors, to the faith communities, to people who support us to say, let's start stockpiling dollars so that we can give those dollars away in need. Because, we will have money that we can then fungibly use it when we try to get reimbursement. But it's, it's going to be a slog for every single one of us in this room when this starts to happen. And it's coming at us like a dream. So I wanted to say, as you're thinking about the 30 million, can you please think about both those immediate crisis needs as well as thinking about the ongoing capacity building, the infusion of funding for new and existing programs. There's going to be something else happening in our community, but we're delighted that you're doing this, and we look forward to working with you on it as we go forward.
Janet, pass my bag on the floor. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Thank you for waiting, getting started while I got here from the train. I'm Assemblymember Chantel Jackson. I represent the 79th District in the South Bronx, chair of the New York State Black Legislative Task Force. And I was listening in because we are live streaming to all the information that was shared in advance. So I want to say thank you to everyone up here and my colleague, Clyde Vanell, who got us kicked off. So I just want to acknowledge that Assemblymember Damon Meeks, who represents Rochester, is here sitting with us. This is also a member of the task force. That's Damon. And our executive director, Josiah Williams, who will be taking all of your questions outside of this room, or maybe even inside this room, is here as well. So Josiah, let them see who you are. That's Josiah Williams, doing an amazing job at this work and help put it together. Our secretary for the Black Task Force is Assemblymember Khalil Anderson, who represents out in Queens, Far Rockaway, who is also here with us. So I'm not sure if there was a direct question for us. Was there?
Tell me about the balance between sort of capacity building and also crisis needs.
Right. So I think it's a good time for me to say this thing. This is just $30 million that has to go across the entire state. This is just $30 million across the entire state. It's not possible for us to fill in gaps that the federal government has left us with. So this money will not do that, right? This money is to supplement and help grow some of the work that you guys are already doing with your agencies, right? The capacity building is a part of one of the things we want to make sure gets done with this funding. So I just want, because I don't think I heard this, these are the areas which we are looking for funding to go into. And if you guys have additional, suggestions, we're listening to that as well. But we're looking for this funding to help with housing. Oh, you did that one already?
Yeah.
Oh, they did it already. So you guys have the list.
that.
So capacity building is already there. It exists there. So we absolutely want to see that happen. And so if there's anything in addition to what we don't have listed here, or you want to put an emphasis on some of the things, then that's definitely a time and space for us to do that. Okay.
If the speakers could actually because the people on Zoom can't hear on that microphone. If you're able, if you could actually come up to this podium right here, microphone. For the next speakers, if you're able to come up to this microphone, that way the people on Zoom can hear what you're saying, okay?
'Cause it was just low, yeah. Okay, does anybody else have anything that they want to add before this? Because I know, no, okay, please. Sure, go ahead.
In the work that we do, engaging with older adults and talking with older adults across the community, something we frequently hear is, people, the elders that we speak to feel that they don't understand or know how or where they fit in. They see what's happening in our community with youth, they see what's happening with working families, they are raising children themselves, and they feel powerless and voiceless. And so I would encourage, ask, request that as you are reviewing whatever's coming forward, that you look for opportunities to shine on intergenerational programming that empowers and uplifts the voices of older adults, and that finds ways to really capitalize on the opportunities and the power that our elders have to make.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, suggestions? We're here for you all. This is a listening tour, so we want to listen to you.
Good evening, my name is Charlene Carver. Thank you so much, Assembly Pam Hunter, for convening, and to the task force for sharing the evening with us here in Syracuse. Again, my name is Charlene Carver. I am the founder and CEO of the Women's Economic Institute, who were formed in Phoenix, Arizona, and expanded into Central New York during the pandemic. For the last 4 years, we have operated an incubator space on the West Side, where we provide training for BIPOC and entrepreneurs. We also have a program mentoring young women in both academic and professional support areas. And we have an expo that we are now entering our 5th year. The expo is largely focused on women's empowerment. We have our marketplace, our empowerment stage, our wellness corner, our STEAM corner, and our teen summit that are part of the expo. And then the last piece of our work is an affordable housing project, which is being developed on the south side of the city. So our work centers around community and economic development. We've been working with List New York for the last year and a half on this project, and as of late, Savings Alliance, I'm not sure if they are a downstate developer, has come on board as the master development work project. And the project is focused on affordable housing for seniors and includes both ground floor, food hall, daycare, and retail incubator. Our work really largely focuses on community and economic development. Our request is for additional capacity building support in order to have more coalition building here in the city of Syracuse. There are a lot of different smaller agencies that are working in silos to be able to have more coalition building so that we're able to work together and share resources. I think would be extremely beneficial. There also is a greater need for technical assistance. I know in our work, we also need for trauma specialists. We have found that in some of the work, because of the level of trauma that exists in this community, even when we're providing academic and professional support, soft skills development, there are so many issues that community members face as a result of domestic violence, community violence. There is a need to have someone on site who can help in those areas. In the last, one of the most recent pieces of work that we've been doing is with, we partnered with Georgetown University to convene a research study to look at south side of the city, to look at the systemic historic poverty that exists on the south side, specific to African Americans, and have the data that shows how African American women are the most marginalized demographic group in the city. And so we would love to be able to process that data and be able to distribute that research so that it can help kind of center some of the work that is being done to look at how we can, you know, kind of unpack the routes of the poverty in the city. We do look at things, we all know that the South Side is a food desert. In addition to it being a food desert, it's also a retail desert, it's a daycare desert. So there is a huge need for ongoing services, resources, and support. So I echo, I think what my colleagues have shared, as a smaller nonprofit, there's a huge need to have upfront funds. Sometimes reimbursement creates challenges for us, and so as much as there are dollars that are available, without a reimbursement component, I think that would be truly helpful. I think this again is a community with a lot of trauma, so as much as we can create empowerment opportunities, empowerment programming and services, which is why we host the expo for empowerment purposes. I don't think we should serve the community without, such as this one, without helping people believe, know, and see examples of what's possible, that they can see it, they can be it. And that's why we do some programming. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you. And while I'm not sure who's coming up next to speak, I just want us to, I know everyone has put their phone on silent, but a lot of the information that we have available to you all, we usually post it on our social media first. So I would love to, at this time, remind you guys to follow us on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We have Facebook? Oh, no, I'm sorry, I messed that up. Okay, TikTok. So for the younger folks who like TikTok, follow us there. It's NYSBL Task Force. NYSBL Task Force. That's where most of our information is dropped. Our frequently asked questions was something that we was able to create based on the 4 other tours that we went to, and people kept asking the same question. So we created that document, and now that's available on our social media. So besides making sure that you registered to be here today and we received your information, we'll send you emails, but we'll also, if you want that fast information, it's definitely readily available on our social media. So I just wanted to plug that. No other questions? We're listening to you guys.
Come on, y'all. I call you out by name. I see Gerald out there. I see Nopal out there. I see Phil out there. Kiana out there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Interfaith Community Collective. We're a brand new 501c3. We been working for the last few years, really since the beginning of COVID, with University Methodist, Grace Episcopal, Temple Concord, the Temple of Death Assurance, and All Saints Roman Catholic together to feed and clothe the people of Syracuse. Very basic level, very basic human needs. Before COVID, we were serving about 50 families a month with our food pantry, and when COVID hit, we moved from 50 families a month to 300 families a week. And we feed about 1,000 people every week, provide clothing for 50 to 75 families a week, and send breakfast for 150 plus folks every week. We talk to people through Google Translate at least 5 languages every Friday, our food distribution. We're meeting basic human needs. The issue we're facing now is that, food has come to us fairly easily over the past few years. We actually spent no money on food last year, and distributed over 300 tons of food. But our need right now is to take control of our food procurement, not to replace necessarily, but to be able to control how we get our food, control where we get our food, and provide nutritious food, not just macaroni and spaghetti sauce. So We've partnered, in addition to our churches, we partnered with Syracuse University, ESF, upstate, and local high schools in terms of helping them understand issues. Our most recent cooperation is with Offering, and Lisa can tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Offering is the Unadopted Rescue Network. We started as a network of people interested in recovery in Onondaga County. And we're in the process of becoming a program of ICC because of this need to take more control over food sourcing, given that we're expecting federal dollars to not be coming in the same way for food sourcing for some of our local pantries, as well as the increased need that we expect to see around food security and those grocery costs. So we work to connect with what otherwise would waste it to the pantry system, mostly through farm bleeding right now. So we also do a lot of connection of rural and urban communities in that way. And we're really in the startup stages and working to grow as part of ICC. But one of the important parts that we're also finding in this work is how many smaller mutual aid groups or small pantries throughout the community don't have equitable access to food. So working with them to ensure that they're getting some of the excess food, especially things that are coming from our central New York farmers. So I'll just kind of underscore what Robert was saying about the need for some of this funding going towards some of the basic needs pieces that we're expecting to see in the near future. And just kind of one question I also had about the application process. Different fiscal conduits. I know you mentioned potentially having shared applications, but are you guys going to be focusing on different areas, or focusing on geography or subject matter? Yeah, how will we know who to apply for?
Good question.
Excellent question. So I think the first step, as we've said, make sure that you are registered so you're attached to our listservs, the listservs of the task force, so that information can go out. I think, and I was, before you came, when we were talking a little bit about how the fiscal intermediaries are going to start meeting and trying to find simplified processes. So the more that when we have information, we'll have that information out. I think the goal is not to have all of a sudden an application in a window to say, okay, now you can apply, and everyone's struggling to get that information. So if I was to think about timelines, and this is all subject to change, right? In my mind, I think somewhere first quarter of 26 through a state process, right? So before applications and money would be flowing, but that's why I think it's so important to be following and getting the information from the task force in the interim, so that communities are continuously aware of that information. Doesn't that make sense? Especially as the tours continue, and as we went through that long list of the priority areas, but if 2 or 3 of them become a very big need, right? We need to figure out how to balance that, because again, it's 30 million statewide. It's a great amount of money. It's a start, but it's not going to fulfill every need, right? So being a little bit realistic, but wanting to make sure we prioritize small CBOs. How do you get that money to flow? We understand the issue with the reimbursable expense, but we don't know how much up front. So that's all in the works. And I think that's why it's important to stay aware of the information that the task force is putting out. And I think the commitment of the fiduciaries is, as soon as we get clarity on what this looks like, we want to push that out as well, right? So that's why it's important for the communities that we're going to. Does that?
I just want to add a small piece, because I heard you say, like, how do I know which fiscal conduit to apply to? And part of the listening to is for us to listen to what you guys think makes the most sense. In my brain, I would say, like, if you have multiple areas, like I heard you mention economic development, and I heard some other things, right? If you have multiple areas of things that you do, in my brain, I would say, like, oh, well, won't you apply for the one that you feel has the most need? But someone else may say, like, no, I do a lot of great work in 3 different areas. Why can't I apply to 3 different fiscal conduits? The purpose of this is not for me to tell you right now which process is going to work, but for you all to tell us what you guys think makes the most sense. If there's an agency that does 5 things really well, should they be allowed to apply to 5 different fiscal conduits and receive funding for each. And this is why we're having this conversation, for you all to tell us, no, that doesn't make sense. Or, yeah, they're doing great work, so that should work. Yeah, but we do want to spread the wealth. And I will say that I don't think the fiscal condos would be like, well, they applied to me and they applied to me and they applied to me, and we should give it to them, knowing that it's over 400 people who have told us they're interested in this funding. So yeah, I know I didn't answer your question directly, but the point of this is literally for us to hear what you guys think makes the most sense.
You guys had a full answer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but thank you for that. I appreciate the work. And thank you guys for the work that you guys are doing. Really appreciate it. Any other thoughts based on everything we've just shared? Does everyone in this room know each other? I think that's really important for me to know. Because one thing that I loved about the last few tours is that people would come up here and they would tell us what they're doing, and then they would start connecting with each other. The network is so important, and you don't have to wait for rooms and spaces like this to network, but because we have it, we might as well use it. So I'm urging that everyone who is here not leave without knowing 5 new people if you don't know someone. All right, so let's make sure that we're connecting, we're sharing information, because you never know, you may need food pantry and they may be able to assist you, or you may have some women that could use some empowerment and she may be able to, you understand what I'm saying? So if you guys want to use this time to maybe come up here and tell us what you do, that would be helpful as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
Come on, Phil.
Come on, Phil. Hi, Phil.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you to the task force for meeting this listening to it and bringing it to Syracuse. Next time, we'll find this without a lot of steps.
Okay. ADA compliant. Gotcha.
Yes. My name is Phil Crane. I'm the community organizer for Syracuse United Neighbors. I also do work with the Horizon. I'm here as an organizer for some, and we are that small organization that really struggle to function with the reimbursement system. We are a membership organization, residents of the south and west sides of the city of Syracuse, where, as we've heard before, the poverty is intense. We work with residents to identify the concerns that they have, and we consider ourselves a traditional community organization, which is why I was very thrilled to see that Syracuse portion of what that's, even though we work on a lot of the other issues, we work on. But what we really work on is the leadership capacity of the residents of the neighborhoods. We're proud that our members run our meetings, they come to public hearings generally, and that's the goal, is to empower residents to solve the problems that need solving. And again, I'd just like to point out that our organization could also benefit from acid building. We had destination of our aid staff in staff. And the other problem we have is that we had, for many years, we were a member of the neighborhood preservation program from the state division housing. We no longer have the amounts necessary to match the grant that they would use. So we're going to be struggling, and we'd like to reach out and identify places and people that again, thank you. Someone Hunter for many years when she was doing things like that, and we appreciate that you
Thank you, Phil. As our next speaker comes up, you coming up?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Oh, he didn't have a question though. He just wanted to acknowledge. Yeah. We are, come on, you can come on up. We are looking to have our fiscal conduits put, and I heard Assemblymember Hunter, this is my speaker pro temp, actually. This is my speaker. Madam Speaker, I heard Madam Speaker say that there will be a $250,000 grant. Nothing's finalized, but we really want to see that happen. That $250,000 be put to the side from each of our fiscal conduits to help with smaller organizations and that can't do reimbursement necessarily. So we're looking for projects that are $50,000 and less. So say you just need $20,000 to do something, 30,000, you know, we're looking to have that be a set aside. Nothing's finalized until it's finalized, but that is our goal.
Oh, all right, well, good evening, everybody. Deanna Williams. I am Senior Program Officer at the Centenary Community Foundation, but I'm really not here in that capacity, more of a resident, and thank you all for what you're doing, Assemblywoman Pamela Hunter, you're amazing, as you know, I'm a big fan. I just had a couple of things around some of the application processes as you guys are considering some of these things, just as a funder and also a resident, having seen all the impact work that everybody in this room does within this community. What kind of mechanisms are you gonna build into this application process to avoid community bias? Because oftentimes we see a beautiful application and it looks wonderful and everything, and sometimes that particular applicant has a wonderful grant writer, or maybe they're really not they're not being fully transparent in what their impact is. Which leads me to my next question around what types of success indicators are we really looking for? I mean, we hear a lot about poverty and all of the chronic issues that happen within our particular region, but we seldom talk about how resilient we are and what type of dreaming and scheming we can do with some innovative projects. How are we going to set up some type of guidelines to kind of really look at those a little more deeper? They may not have all of the staff, it may not be shiny and beautiful application, but they may be doing some really amazing stuff that we need to lift up and take a little deeper look at. So those are just some of my questions. And then I'm wondering also if how you'll be encouraging partnerships. What would that messaging look like to people? Because as Lisa's already talked about, and Charlene's already talked about, and Beth has already talked about, there's silos here, and how do we help and connect people to build those meaningful relationships to want to work together? So what would the messaging be around that? And lastly, are you considering like an LOI, like what else to win with in terms of, I got a lot of questions. So, and then my last one is around like a participatory process, because that's a lot of what I do. In each region, I'm sure you guys have a task force, but who would be like a representative or boots on the ground, like in the community that could be a part of that review process that might be a really helpful way to go. Thank you for taking my questions.
Sure.
Okay.
Those were all fabulous questions.
Perfect
Did you see
questions.
I was writing them down word for word, so I will take them back. I think just a couple of high level things. I think the success indicators or impact, I'm just gonna use those two words, success indicators or impact. We wanna make sure that there's impact for the dollars so that we can try to make sure this is not one-time money. I think the task force has been clear on that. And same with the fiduciaries, right? Like, we want to make sure that if a program is being leveraged in Queens or here in Syracuse or Buffalo, how can we figure out that impact so that we can demonstrate back to the state and all of the electeds that there's need, and the 30 million was a great investment, but that's not the only investment. So we haven't figured that out, but I think, and we don't want it to be too complicated, right? But we also want to be able to demonstrate something on the other side. So I think that's work that the fiduciaries need to continue in the conversation, then obviously have to get into the contracting process with the state and obviously what the task force wants too, right? So there's a couple of pieces on that, but I think that that is a really important piece. And I think the partnership, I think that is a critically important. I think that's why the fiduciaries under the chairwoman's leadership came together, and we do want to partner together, but I also think, how do we do that in communities? And I think it may look different in each community. And so what is it that you need here in Syracuse to do that, maybe slightly different than what Buffalo needs or Albany may need. So I think be vocal about that, or come to the task force with ideas. I think you're open to those questions and ideas. And so if you were to say, here in Syracuse, we have these silos, we'd like to figure out how to break them down, or how do we partner together, or if we're two small organizations, and let's say we each need, I'm just using this example, it may not work, you each need 15,000, but you don't have a full-time staff, could you work together and partner on that grant? I think those are all things that you should come back and voice your opinions and share with the task force, so it helps us think through design, because we're not going to know unless all of you tell us. Is that?
I think that's accurate. And something that was brought up in another listening tour was having committees. There was a situation in Harlem where there was a man who was disabled, and his disability we couldn't even address because we just didn't have the technology to do so. And the only reason why we knew about it is because he came forward to the listening tour and told us about it. And I think there's a conversation around committees based on what people are what their specialty is, helping with the process of picking the right people to grant this funding to. We, as the task force, as legislatures, will not be a part of that conversation. We want to stay as far away from it as possible. So that would be on the fiscal conduits to create and execute. You guys understand why we don't want to be a part of it, right? So you can't go to Member Hunter and be like, well, you didn't pick my. She's not picking any of the groups. None of us are. We don't ever want to touch that. So there is conversations around having committees to help with the choosing of who should be granted. And it's just conversation. Nothing's finalized. Evening.
My name is Nicole Kemp, and I am just going to talk a little bit about some work that we do, and just more so the ideas, not necessarily ambitions.
Okay.
But my name is Nicole Kemp, like I said before, I'm a certified doula community Syracuse. And I'm also the president of Catholic Sankofa and co-founder of Sankofa and so, we have a doula collective, we do a lot of work around maternal health, and I was there, and there's a co-founder, we've done a lot of work on the doula Medicaid task force, and while we appreciate the state has passed funding for doula Medicaid, we're actually at capacity. So we are receiving so many clients who we have complex needs that are beyond doula care, right? So there's a need for more maternal health care navigation. We have a client who are supporting, who is homeless, who is in a shelter, and what does maternal care look like, right? So the work that we do often goes beyond the doula care and into helping people settle into housing, job employment. And so we really are in a need for support for operations and funding, because while the doula Medicaid, a lot of us in the community doulas are not enrolled yet, and while we're getting to that process, we still need a way to fund them the important for the community. We also are housed in Cafe Sankofa, which is the one of the Black health and wellness-led cafe in Syracuse. We have yoga, fitness, doula care. So we want funding that is going to support organizations that support mutual aid or innovative partner with a lot of people in this room, but a lot of us are partnering with pennies. And so we need long-lasting funding that will be multi-year to continue the work that we're doing. So just thinking about, especially with us applying, who we got in office, and it's impacting the clients, the grants and funding we can apply for. So what does it look like as a state to really get behind beyond doula Medicaid, saying that's enough, but supporting a lot of the other preparing the health workers who are obviously doing a lot of labor for a lot of people.
That's a good point. Well said. Well said. But doula care is definitely one of those things I personally would love to see us be funding. And just so you guys know, there are also, so the $30 million exists, right? But we pass a state budget every single year. And every year, I think it's important for you all to be advocating to be a part of that state budget.
You know they do.
Oh, they do. Okay, perfect. Perfect. And while your representative is here, I think she also can use support from other members knowing how good your services are. So I think you guys get me. So it's not just your representative who is here, but also having these conversations that we're having now. I think that's extremely important.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. My name is John Johnson, and I am the CEO of DJ AI Consulting Company. We are an AI consulting company that will help you with your grants, help you with any situation that you may have. If you know, we take a 500-page grant and break that down to probably about an hour and a half to write an excellent grant. Right now, we're in the stage of doing a couple of free projects for people who are interested in writing grants. If you're interested, you can go to my website. It's DJIAconsulting.com. So I think we're the only minority AI consulting company around. So thank you very much.
Well said. Make sure you collect his information because you never know how you can use it. DJ Consulting, wait, DJ AI. DJ AI Consulting Company. Thank you for that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you guys for hosting this event. My name is Timothy Bay, also known as Noble, throughout the Syracuse community, creator and founder of the Street Addiction Institute and the Street Addiction Theory, which is a grounded theory that I created that highlights the fact that the streets have and nature, just like cocaine, alcohol, and gambling, people who are raised exposed to that process, they do arrested and rehabilitation before you can reach back into any traditional educational path, career path, or job setting. Also, the co-founder of the trauma response team here in the city of Syracuse. This is my 29th summer working in the field of violence prevention. Me and my team, we for over a decade responded to shootings and homicides throughout the community under the leadership of Pam at the time. Thank you for that. We serve about 100 plus families in the Street Addiction Institute. Education is very important to us because we understand that having been educated, you have a free mind. The great thing about our country, I think a lot of people hold, is that you can change the journey of your family with an education in one generation. A lot of our good people, which I don't think we really gaze out here, a lot of our young people are depressed. Going to the school buildings, we kind of look at the behavior, the suspension rate, right? It's kind of off the level. To look at the behavior and environments that our young people come from. Seeing our children here in Syracuse, they graduate with and taxes. Right? It's extremely difficult for a person to go from freshman year to senior year, losing 5 or 6 friends. And then we place another expectation on these children and families for that child to sit in the seat and be properly educated. It's not going to happen. That's going to happen. It's not. Now, I'm a product of Syracuse. Like many of us saying, I'm sure some of us do go through, but we can't other people behind that process. So I think programming is geared toward changing our classrooms into incubators. Training has to be expanded for the teachers, the parents, and the children. Like their level of expectation, because if you set the bar high, they'll meet, they're very resilient. I just don't think we give them the opportunity to show that somehow education has become a process of people being people instead of drawing things out. So that's an issue across this community. So this will provide our young people with the spaces and services that they need to wipe away at some of the trauma and the depression, because they live in the community. A lot of our schools here are community-based schools, so you have children who walk back and forth. With the miles they have to walk past, they have to walk past blood-stained sidewalks that's never cleaned up after there's a homicide. So again, the environmental factors push right into the school district. And oftentimes we don't associate mental health with education of children. I'm suffering from mental health issues. It's very disturbing to me and my staff. I don't even know how these children come outside and smile sometimes at some of the stuff that they're faced with within their homes and within the 3 to 5 block radius. So education tied to criminal justice reform is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the hard work that you do. It's never easy. You ask him? Come on, come on. Yeah. Because it's hard for them. It's still hard? Okay. Can it just go over there? Okay. Oh, it doesn't go. Okay, hold on. Just see, it's gonna fix it, guys. Hold on 1 second. Is it possible to?
It's still difficult for people to hear online, so it's just gonna move it over here.
And are
Back
we
and forth.
using that for online as well? Okay, yeah. Gotcha. All right.
Tell you what, I'm gonna put this right up here, little catch for everybody. You talking about?
Thank you. Just want to say thank you for having this. I'm very excited, so please excuse me. I'm a little nervous. My name is Anne-Marie Johnson, and I am an MS ambassador for the National MS Society. Now, while the National MS Society is a relatively large organization, it's been around for over 75 years. Let's talk a little bit in terms of what does that mean here in Syracuse. In Syracuse, New York, right before the pandemic, Upstate Neurology was awarded a certification to become a comprehensive MS care center. Now, this is a very big deal because it gives a holistic approach to MS. This is the only center of its kind here in Central New York, Western New York, to Albany. There's 4 in New York State, the other 3 are downstate. Just to give you some more information, Syracuse has the highest prevalence of multiple sclerosis in the nation. We ask the question, why? We don't know. Some argue that it could be in terms of health inequities that we all know exist here in Syracuse. In addition to environmental causes that we all know are prevalent here in Syracuse, but ultimately we do not have an answer. The Comprehensive Care Center here in Syracuse is looking at how can we go about bringing more education and awareness to the community at large regarding multiple sclerosis. So having an opportunity like this to be awarded funds to be able to further advance that would greatly be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, well said. And while we wait for the next person to come up, I just want to mention that while the Black Task Force advocated for the $30 million, we also have other task force that also received $30 million in their ask. So the AAPI task force received $30 million, and the Puerto Rican Hispanic task force also received $30 million, for a total of $90 million to help underserved communities.
So are you all ready for your social lesson or just something?
Yeah, I tell you, I was not.
So first and foremost,
close, I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to exist in the same time and space with all of you. I see a lot of leaders that I know, that I work with, that they're just a phone call away if I need a little bit of help because they know a lot more than I do, and I've learned a lot from them over the years. I also see a lot of champions. I also see a lot of people I didn't know before that certainly sound like and look like potential partners for me. So I'm definitely open to, as we were talking with Community Foundation, doing participatory grants and you know, communicating amongst our, not only our peers, but also our community to see, identify what our needs are. So I'm really grateful to be here. And I really, you know, La Liga, I'm the executive director. We're also known as the Spanish Action League here. We're the only bilingual, bicultural agency in a 12-county radius, and we serve 5 of those counties. But we are located here in Syracuse, and a lot of people will go to any means to get to Syracuse to try to get a connection to some sort of help. But you know, we're always identifying new trends because the climate is changing and it's going to continue to change. So no matter what we have before us to help us meet needs, new needs are going to arise. You know, just the climate and the temperature of what's going on with immigration is unbelievable. I knew when this new administration was coming in, my being an abolitionist, I was going to be working a lot harder. And human trafficking is really skyrocketing. It always has been. It's kind of like that dirty little secret and thing that people think that happen in other places. But I can tell you the children are born into slavery right here in central New York with a debt that they're never going to pay off. Right now, with everything that's going on and the displacement of people through these ICE raids, there's a lot of families that they're not only displaced and broken, they're left with no resources. There's definitely a lot of work to do with what's up and coming, what's emerging, and I want to be part of the solution. I'm grateful to be at the table because Assemblywoman Hunter is a champion for the people, all people. And, you know, for me to be included at any table, she makes sure, and a lot of my leader friends here make sure that I'm at those tables to be heard. Because a lot of times the Latino voice should be heard, but it just isn't. And speaking about the Latino voice, I think that language access is, being a language service agency, that disconnect is just astronomical and it continues to grow. You know, some people are also illiterate. We deal with a lot of clients that are, if they can't read it in their language, they're not going to read it in any other language. So being more creative about how we create resources and communicate with people so that a symbol that they see on a resource can help them identify that there could be help and hope for what it is that they need is a really powerful tool. So I really want to work with, you know, a team to be able to develop some really good resources as well. So again, I'm open to work with everyone. We do a lot, you know, I only have a few employees. So, you know, having more team members to do more work, but then of course you have more team members and then you find you have even more work and there's more people because it's never going to end, but at least we're making an effort. So I'm really happy to be here tonight. Thank you so much. And I hope we can all work together.
All right, we're ready. We are ready.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Michelle Stewart, and I am new to this listing. I hail originally from the island of Grenada. I lived and worked in Brooklyn, New York for a long time, and I've been here now in Syracuse for about 9 years. I am now serving in the capacity as the Director of Fund Development and Grants at the Good Life Foundation. I am an educator, a mom, a grandma, a wife, a friend, and a sister. So as someone who has lived and worked in human and social services with a twist of education, I like to say, there's an old saying from the Bible, first of all, train a child in the way that he or she should grow. So when they're of age, they will not depart from it. But how do we begin to train? It starts with the teacher, with education. One of the resounding themes I heard was, education, nonprofit capacity building. But one of the things I would love to see, I believe would work for us, is not just providing education, but alternative settings. Our children are often going to homebound as an alternative because of fragmentations in behaviors, right? We're not able to support them in understanding their why. There's no restorative justice. If I have committed some infraction against you, and I am not given the opportunity to understand how it impacts me, the person I've done the injustice to, the families, my community, my school, I am more likely to do this again. So for example, a child who's sent home cannot cohabitate with his or her students or colleagues in the classroom, goes to an alternative setting. Hopefully after 60 days, that child can go back. There is no restorative processes in place. That child, number one, has experienced severe trauma, right? And so they're not able to manage their emotions. So how do we create alternative settings in non-traditional hours, but not just based on suspension, but based on choice, right? So that's one of the things that I believe that I have not heard, that I believe our children can benefit from. And that's mostly because I have worked as an educator in a SEL setting, in a non-traditional setting, and my last was with serving as a coordinator for the homebound process. And what we saw was exactly that: lack of choice, lack of non-traditional hour support, and some aftercare services. There is none for the parents. So even if we are able to teach some coping skills, the children go home, for example, if I'm taught how to visualize when I'm upset, and I go home and I decide to close my eyes and I'm counting to 10, my mom is most likely to take the shoe and throw at me because we're teaching this child new skills, but we are not engaging with the parents. So in our educational reform or structure, if we can create some opportunities for the parents to become more involved. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So I'm a stickler for time. It's 7:31. Is there any other conversations that people wish to have? Want to step to the mic? Okay. We're taking notes, all of us are, and it'll be compiled. It'll be compiled for us as the task force, the executive board, and our fiscal conduits to look at. So trust and believe that everything you guys are saying is making an impact.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks again for having this platform for us to speak. My name is Renee Marcoux. I am with the Syracuse Onondaga Food Systems Alliance. Some of you might not recognize me. I'm fairly new to the area. I've been here about a year. And I echo a lot of what you all are saying, and I'm thinking about what Kiana was saying about how siloed we are, and the work that SAFSA is doing to break down those silos, to build up relationships among one another. For those of you who aren't familiar with the work we do, for the too long didn't read version, we are an independent food policy council serving Syracuse City, Onondaga County, and Onondaga Nation. But we're so much more than that. We are relationship builders, we are community builders. We do things, not for community, but deeply with community. We work with community leaders, with emerging leaders, to build up capacity, especially for advocacy around food systems change. We all know, especially in Syracuse, that the food system, from agricultural producers all the way down to retail and food prices, it's just not working for the large majority of folks, except for those people who have built up a lot of power in this country. And so the work that SAFSA is doing really is coalescing our power within organizations, within individuals, through advocacy, through policy change, through civic engagement. We are a small team of 3, and so that capacity building is definitely alluring for us. But yeah, I would love to reach out to some of you all, if I haven't already, met and established a relationship with you all, to see where we can connect, because it really is in that building of relationships and coalescing of our power that we're really able to change the system and transform, especially with regard to what we're doing, into a food system that works for us all. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. There was a couple of conversations, many conversations people brought up relative to food. We did have a food conversation with some of our farmers, and there definitely seems to be a disconnect, even though we are always hearing about local farms and food to table. There is a huge disconnect between farms actually being able to get their food into the school district, into different organizations. So hopefully with SAFSA and some of the other organizations, especially the pantries, there has to be an easier mechanism in order to get that food, local food flowing that isn't from large factory farms, but smaller entities, in order to get to some of these pantries, because our families deserve more than spaghetti and spaghetti sauce, as you said. And one of the other things that we have been able to do relative to, I know this is a sensitive subject, but with the deer culling in our community, which if you live on the east side like I do, or in Onondaga, or wherever, you see our friendly four-legged friends, but when they do cull the deer, they actually, all of the meat goes to the food bank, and that's fresh meat that our families are getting, and sometimes they don't know how to use the food. They don't necessarily know how to cook venison. So I think if we could find better ways in order to get our local food into the hands of the pantries who are desperately going to need them, that needs to be, obviously taken into consideration as well.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, suggestions, feedback for members of the task force? Okay. Sure. So the question was, how will everyone else know who's in the room? And so, I mean, one of the things it's 7:37. Do you want to come? Okay. So what I was thinking is we'll take the last 15 minutes to do some time for you guys to talk to each other. But I don't know. I can't say I'm willing to share people's information unless they agree for us to share their information, if that makes sense. So, but you'll definitely have that time to mingle.
Hi, I'm Rena Lyons-Canty. I work at the Community Foundation with Kiana, and I know a couple good faces in here as well that I've worked for in a former position with Say Yes to Education. I'm the Special Projects Officer at the Central New York Community Foundation, and I'm coming up here almost to address what you just mentioned. So part of the issue is exposure, right? Different pockets know of different needs. And so one of my charges is staff community engagement. And so I'm easy to find on our website. It's just my name, dlyons-canty. And if your organization has an idea of how we can partner and I can engage members of our staff and expose them. These are the people that are doing the work. They are the boots on the ground. They are the people that are reviewing the grants. They are the people, and let me be clear, our team, our community investment team, our grants team, their boots are on the ground. But it just allows different pockets of all of us that are doing different work, vital work in our community, but we might not be exposed to the different pockets of needs. So please email me, contact me. And if it's something that I can get a team of 5, let alone a team of 30 to participate and be exposed to, you never know what can come out of that conversation. We are a small a small community, but we are a very siloed community, right? And so you never know that 6 degree of separation, whether personal or professional, could maybe find some energy and some synergy to address some things somehow, some way. So again, Dana Lyons Canty, so D Lyons hyphen Canty, C-A-N-T-Y, at Central New York Community Foundation, so cnycf.org. And I'm happy to talk with anybody and invite me anywhere, and I'm going. And if there's food involved, I'm definitely going. Or if I can take you, I'm definitely down for that too. So not today, not today. It's almost 8 o'clock. Not today. But please reach out to me. I'm new to my role. It was established with the new CEO and president, Melanie Littlejohn, when she took the helm last year. So I'm open. So put it on my calendar and I'm there. If there are any questions, I'll be here for a little bit, and I have some cards.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll be really brief. I hear the talk about the silos, but one of the things that's really important and something that has hurt New York State, going back to 2020, is not being counted in the manner that we need to be counted as it relates to the census. So you all are boots on the ground. You have personal relationships with members of the community that you can actually talk to them and engage them. So we're going to lean on you, and we're also looking at the state level. Some of us have started a conversation about how do we look and how do we be intentional in funding a true movement as it relates to the census in New York State, because this is how additional monies come to our communities from the federal level of government. So we want to make sure that we're counted as a community, and it's going to take each of you, among others, to engage those who you already have relationships with and have built a sense of trust in order to make sure that we're counted and get needed resources. Thank you.
Well said. Secretary Khalil Anderson.
Yeah, just wanted to quickly address a question that was asked in the audience regarding the interfaith community and faith-based communities. So with this pot of money, this funding opportunity, it's open to those who have a 501c3 and the types of programs, whatever that nonprofit is, whether it's a church or mosque, if that entity is supporting but not limited to the areas of housing, economic development, workforce, health programs, education programs, civic engagement, cultural preservation, criminal justice reform, or nonprofit capacity building. Those are just some examples that if your local house of worship is engaged in those activities and they have a 501c3, these monies are eligible, they're able to apply for these dollars and these monies, but it's also an opportunity because I know a lot of the interfaith community has stepped up and done a lot of work, whether it was COVID or any other major disasters or moments of urgencies that we've had. It's important that we know that those dollars and resources are eligible for them. That's important. And also just be reminded that one of our fiscal conduits who's going to be supporting this initiative is United Way. And they have a program called Choosing Healthy Living. And that program directly targets houses of worship across the state to help change the food-based lifestyles of individuals who need that additional support in that space. I'm wearing two hats. I'm the secretary of this task force, but I'm also the chair of the Food Farm Nutrition Policy Task Force. So that's one program I love to highlight because it works really well in my district and it's working well across the state of New York. So again, that program is called Choosing Healthy Living, and it's with United Way, and they're one of our fiscal conduits. So there's a number of opportunities for our brothers and sisters in the interfaith community to get organized and to get a piece of this pie.
And your member is not leaving. She just has to excuse herself really quickly. But at this time, it is 7:43, and like I had promised, I want you guys to have that 15 minutes to mingle. We do have refreshments outside, was provided by United Way, provided refreshments, so we do have that. I just want to say thank you to Onondaga for giving us this space, to my colleagues, Assembly Member Clyde Vanell, who's Chair of Banks, just so I don't know if he said that.
Yellow shirt, don't leave.
Chair of Banks. And we have everyone's gonna introduce themselves and tell you how you can find them. Thank you to Dorcia, our executive director, who has been putting all these listening tours together. You can contact her, of course, by email at williamsd@nyassembly.gov. It's all on the paperwork that you received. Please share your contact with everyone else in this room before you leave. Follow us on our social medias. You have your phone in your hand. I see it. It is NYSBL Task Force on all of our social media. I am Assemblymember Chantel Jackson, Chair of the Black Task Force. I am very active on TikTok, giving the MTA a hard time today, as well as charter schools. Very active on social media, Chantel Jackson 79, and I'll allow my colleagues to introduce themselves as we close out.
Thank you so much, Chair Jackson. I'm Assemblymember Khalil Anderson, and I represent parts of the Rockaways in Southeast Queens.
Okay.
And I also represent JFK Airport, if those who fly out of our airport down in Queens, New York. I'm really grateful to be here. I also serve as the secretary for the Black Legislative Task Force. And, you know, this is a big historic moment for communities that are disadvantaged, that have far too long been left behind and forgotten about. This pot of money represents an opportunity for those who are in the middle, those who don't have, as someone said earlier, those fancy grant writers or resources, but this is an opportunity for those who put their heads down and do the work and often don't get seen or heard. So I'm grateful to Chairwoman Jackson and to our executive director for bringing this listening tour across the state. I'm looking forward to where we go next. Thank you so much.
And again, Janet Silver, representing United Way of New York State, and thank you for having me today.
Yes.
And I love having our downstate colleagues upstate as well. I get
Yeah.
to see you in the city, but it's nice to have you up here as well.
Yes.
I'm Assemblyman Demond Meeks, representing the 137th Assembly District. That's Rochester, New York. So glad to come and hang out with my neighbors here. And we're going to continue to do this advocacy and bring awareness to the needs of upstate, Western New York, as well as Central New York, Syracuse. So glad to be here. Thank you all. And thank you all for being present tonight.
I know my colleague Pam Hunter introduced me, but let me just tell you a little bit about Pam Hunter. Yes. She is on the ground one of the best advocates for Syracuse. Yeah. As well as Western New York. And she always reminds us that New York State is not the 5 boroughs, and that honestly, Black people are catching hell across the state. She reminds us about the housing situation that's here, the schools, poverty. She is a great, she's a speaker pro temp, which tells you a lot. Right. And she's a great friend to me. So I hear about Syracuse all the time, SU and all the other things that happen, but not just SU, but what's happening in the housing situation, particularly in Syracuse. Just talking to Lisa outside, even though she's an AKA, you know, we did bond, we did bond. But I'm Assemblymember Lisa Hunt. I represent Queens, and I have to say Queens is well represented because Clyde was here. Clyde was here earlier. We had 3 members come up from Queens because this means that much to us to make sure that we do our part as legislators to get this right and not piecemeal this out. We really need to make some real change in the state of New York. So I'm glad we were able to join you tonight. Well said. So here we are closing out. There's a QR code that's about to go up on the screen. You can do that, that's fine. And this is your time to mix and mingle, talk to someone, exchange cards. Do not leave here without knowing someone else that you didn't get to know before. And again, to my speaker, wherever you are, Pam Hunter, we appreciate you. We say thank you for creating this space for us. Take the photo. Oh, we should probably wait till Pam comes back. Yeah. We gotta wait for Pam to come back. And there's refreshments provided by United Way. So thank you. Right, you gotta come to every side.
But you know what? We gotta start telling them they're gonna do refreshments for Black owned.
No, we know.
If it's free.
So I'm saying because they have to buy it. So I'm saying try to buy it.
We could tell them to consider. Yeah. But it's free.
We got to, we have to come around 2 o'clock. And I'm just like, oh, it's a hot mess.
Oh, I thought it was gonna take so long to get here. I got here so quick. I got here like an hour and change.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half.
I thought it would be like, this morning I was like, oh, we're gonna get there. We could have took no time.
Garcia, can we cut this off? Yeah, I told him don't leave yet.
That's one of her main cats.
Yeah, but we need to have a conversation with him. Make sure we get it.